Our next guest this morning is Clem Smith. He is on the Golf Commission. They have some articles this year. And by way of explanation, he has a PowerPoint that Jamie will now show and he'll comment on. And Clem will comment on it.
Peggy, thank you very much. We have 3 articles to submit for approval to the taxpayers at annual town meeting. The first one is Article 16, and it's golf speak for tree removal, landscape reclamation. It's been an ongoing project that we've been engaged in. Anybody that has a yard to take care of understands the predicament of things keep growing. In 30 years, the canopy at Cranberry Valley, meaning the trees, have encroached in a lot of ways that we have started to mitigate. And as a result, we put a substantial amount of money into removing trees strategically when it's important. The whole purpose behind it is improving the turf quality. And if you went up there today, I was up there yesterday actually, it's magnificent. It looks a lot better than a lot of people's lawns. And this is a continuing project that's been brokered with the USGA. That's the United States Golf Association. We've worked with them over the last 10 years, actually, for guidance. It takes the politics out of what we do. So it's been a very successful project.
And that's Article 16, $43,000.
$43,000, and the nice part is that with the creation of 3 specific funds that the selectmen, with their help, have actually been put in place, it allows us to be basically self-sustaining, self-funding, short of becoming an enterprise fund. So it's been a real plus for us.
Great.
Article 17, it's part of an irrigation upgrade system rebuild. The request is $39,000. This will be fully funded as well out of that same fund. Step 1, if you will, is a control box. It's the brains behind the irrigation system that we utilize. And if you go back historically, roughly 10 years ago, when the town had to use a debt exclusion approach to this issue of irrigation, it's the lifeblood of the golf operation. It was very expensive. We hope with this approach to basically cut our cost effectively by 1/2. This step 1 has been necessary because we had a couple of system failures this past year, and thanks to Sean Fernandez's insight, he's our superintendent of the green, he said, you know, rather than watch it crash and burn, let's replace this and start a modernization program. So the next step will be replacing irrigation heads, you know, similar to what you see in lawn irrigation systems. And the last point is good stewards of the water resources of the town. I can segue to our friend who just spoke. This should create some tremendous efficiencies for us as far as application of water more strategically and with better results, actually using less water. So that's what we can look toward in the future. Okay?
Yes, nice,
So,
thank you.
yeah.
So the other article is 18,
18.
the cart barn,
Yes.
parking lot, re-roofing.
This is our big project, and we're very happy about the fact that we will be funding this project entirely through the Golf Operation Infrastructure Improvement Fund, and that was approved at town meeting last year. The funding actually in the plans for that, Chris is going to go into some detail about that, but the important things I felt and the committee felt was the fact that we've gotten the cooperation of a lot of town departments involved in this project. It's created tremendous cost savings and allowed us to do the project the way all of us like to do things: complete, do it once, and do it correctly, as opposed to piecemeal and over a period of time, you know, you start chasing yourself, if you will. And the project actually, these upgrades, the way I feel is it completes the circle. We've initiated golf course improvements. The playability of the course is tremendous. We've helped Ron Leidner with our restaurant operation. That's been very successful. We're going into our second year there, and this will, you know, complete the circle, if you will. The cart barn itself, which has been the focus of, we're lucky it hasn't fallen down. But, you know, basically, there was not really a need to get involved with that prior, but it's time. So, as far as the inclusions in the project, the construction of the cart barn, of course, is the big thing. What I am, along with our Audubon initiative, what I'm really happy about is the fact that we will incorporate a solar component to help generate energy and meet the fuel needs of a new electric cart fleet. It'll mitigate the use of gasoline as a resource, you know, fuel resource. We will be reskinning one of the existing maintenance buildings. Basically, it houses a lot of chemicals, and that's important as far as, you know, the use and application of those are concerned. We're also going to incorporate an environmentally friendly washdown system. It's something new. We're ahead of the state on this. It'll allow us to contain runoff and effluents because there's a lot of oil and detergents that have to be captured, and that will be environmentally friendly as well. We hope to incorporate electric and gas service upgrades. There was an unkept promise years ago about getting gas up to the clubhouse, which would help reduce costs as far as fuel is concerned up there. Then the demolition of the existing cart barn, which probably, in hindsight, was not in a very good spot. It's more or less in the way. And we'll be able to demolish that, relocate the fuel tank, which we invested in a few years ago, down near Sean's buildings. Also, we hope to incorporate a pedestrian-friendly walkway and approach the clubhouse. There'll be additional security lighting and surveillance cameras, you know, to cover the general footprint of both the clubhouse and the practice areas and the maintenance buildings. There's a lot of money at, you know, at risk, if you will, if someone chose to break in and borrow some equipment permanently. And
Or clothing.
or golf clubs or whatever. And finally, the car park renovation, safety upgrades and traffic routing. For those that have been up there, and I'm sure you have, there were a lot of issues as far as trucks and service vehicles, safety, access, if there was an event, you know, that required police or fire safety to come in. So we're excited about those changes. And finally, you know, as I said, this is an investment which we think is critical to the equation that allows Cranberry Valley to become, and has become, one of the premier golf courses on Cape Cod. And we still, despite these expenditures, have met our revenue-producing targets for the town, and we continue to reinvest to keep us competitive in the marketplace. There are pros and cons as far as the discussion about golf is concerned, but we're running against the tide. A lot of municipalities have had problems. Their golf operations basically, you know, they service 2% of the population, and they don't pay for themselves. We are doing just the opposite. Last year we boasted over 50,000 rounds of golf, which
Nice.
it's a lot. So
So
Thank
do we
you.
see a President's Cup one day at Cranberry Valley?
that's the goal.
Great.
Thank you.
Help us out with financing.
Yeah, I just want to take the opportunity, appreciate the opportunity too, to speak to it. We do have several ballot questions that are on for the taxpayers to consider. In this one, this is one of the ones, it is listed as a debt exclusion override. We made a decision, staff-wise, that it probably made sense to take this approach. Folks need to know that we get our revenue primarily from property tax and from different fees. In this case, as Clem alluded to during his presentation, that we do get a lot of money from fees. And in this case, they did set up a specific fee structure to fund this. So what we've done is we've taken a look at the 1.2 million, we've assessed how much that would be to repay that over time, and we do believe, administration and Golf Administration believes that we can actually fund that in total from the golf revenues. Now, there is going to be a few decisions. I don't want to get too much into the weeds in terms of what the finance people would say, but in a nutshell, we could go out as a general obligation bond and fund it through fees. There is a chance, probably within the last 10 to 15 years, the IRS has looked a little bit more carefully at some of these general obligation bonds. And if they believe that it's more of a revenue bond and not a general obligation bond, they can actually treat it like it's a private sector borrowing, which for us would mean probably 2% higher on the interest rate. Now, if that were to happen, if that determination is made by the IRS, then we have to take that into account in terms of the funding. We believe that the funding schedule that we have now, with some adjustments to those funds, perhaps at a future date, we should be able to meet those obligations. I think we also want to try to make sure that we let people know that in case on a general obligation bond, if we were to have a very rainy season and not have enough rounds of golf, we would use that authorization to kind of backfill, because once you commit to a debt service, you have to make those payments. They have a, they don't give you any other option. You got to make those payments. So that's why we're doing this as kind of a belts and suspenders type approach for how this is done. But I'm very optimistic that we should be able to have the revenue to be able to offset. So even though folks are going to see that on the ballot and assume their taxes are going up, in this case, it's not. It's very similar to what we did last year when we did the water side on Saquatucket. We said about 75% of the revenue would come from fees, and that still is very much on target.
Now, this will take a 2/3 vote at town meeting, correct?
Because it's a borrowing authorization, it'd be 2/3 vote, yes.
Okay, great.
I just wanted to comment on, you mentioned the hot stove at Cranberry Valley. I think you folks have finally hit on the right person to do the right type of
chain him to the
menu.
building.
Yeah, I would. I
He's
would.
not leaving.
Great.
And for those at home, if you've never been up there, it's for lunch or breakfast, it's very reasonable, and food is really great.
Eggs
So-
Benedict. $7.95, you can't beat
Oh,
it.
my. You must have had a fairly decent off-season, winter season. There were
Yes.
some folks around golfing in January and February, and
They're a hardy group, except for the little bit of snow that we
yeah,
had.
yeah,
But we still, especially this past month, it's really picked up, so
yeah,
looking forward
Great.
to that.
great.
Thank you both.
Yes,
Oh,
thank you for
thanks.
coming.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.